Hello, one and all, and welcome to the podcast we call The Fantastival with myself, Steve Nussbaum. In the podcast, where I invite my guests to come on and talk to me about their musical taste, their memories, their experiences, and they get to collect their fantasy festivals, which I have christened Fantastivals. I hope everyone is doing well. We've had some lovely June sunshine. I hope everyone has taken advantage of that if you're listening in the UK. And before we start this episode, I'd just like to say a massive thank you to Michael Forsyth, who was my last guest in episode 128 of the Fantastival Podcast. He's got an amazing solo album that's just been released. If you've not listened to the episode or his solo album, please go back and listen to it. It's 12 tracks of absolute greatness, and I was delighted to have him on the podcast. Made for a great episode. So if you haven't listened, please go back to 128. But this episode is all about 129. And this week, I'm delighted to introduce onto the podcast the marvellous, the man behind Teenage Waitress. It's the one and only, it's Daniel Ash.
Hello, thank you very much.
Daniel,
thank you for having me.
I'm so glad to finally have you on the Fantastival Podcast. I know we've been in contact for, it feels like the last year or two about getting you on. Feels like the perfect time to have you on, and I can't wait to hear about the new album and your musical tastes and influences. But before we talk about music, I always like to ask my guests about how they're doing. It's been a crazy 4 years. So, Daniel, mate, how are you?
I'm doing really well, thankfully. Yeah, I'm in a really good place. I'd say more comfortable than ever at the moment. So, I'm 33 now, and I don't know, my 20s were sort of early 20s were super turbulent and kind of all over the place, and I didn't really know where I was. But from my 30s, I just feel so comfortable in my own skin, kind of know where I sit in the world. And it's been fantastic. Sun's out, handed in some work today, doing great. How about you?
I'm all good. I'm smiling talking to you because you're coming across really positive. You've got a big smile on your face. It's obviously a really exciting time in your life, everything that's going on. But before we talk about present day, I'd like to take you back to your early days. So, Daniel, what do you remember about your childhood, and what your earliest musical memories?
Wow, it's quite a story, actually. One of the very first things I can ever remember, I was 4 or 5, and my parents took me to, Madame Tussauds in London, the Waxworks Museum. Yeah. My parents took me there on a family day out to London, and they had something called the Rock Circus that was like a display of rock and pop artists at the time. And there was a David Bowie Waxworks there, and they played Space Oddity and had this spotlight on this David Bowie Waxworks model. And from then on in, I didn't shut up about David Bowie. The story is, I just kept asking my parents, who's that guy? Who's that guy? What's that song? Who's that guy? Nobody else mattered that was there at the exhibition. It was just David Bowie. And for the next 10 years, I had tunnel vision. Nothing else in my world mattered apart from David Bowie. So we went back home, and I was still asking about it. This is one of my first memories as well.
Wow.
And I was just it blew my mind. I was so fascinated by a Waxworks model and a song that they played over some speakers. And I was just questioning my parents about it. And my dad, thankfully, had a best of CD, which he kind of handed to me, and I kind of took with me up to my room and kind of devoured for the next couple of weeks. And from then on in, he just became it was a total obsession. Like I say, nothing else in my world mattered. When I was at school, and it was, what do you want to be when you're older? I want to be David Bowie when I'm older. And show and tell, bringing in CDs. Also, just kind of, it was kind of my the carrot on the stick to get me doing well at school. So I'd do well to get good school reports. So my parents would buy me another David Bowie album, take me to HMV, and treat me to something else. And so that was it. I was kind of in for music and kind of wanting to write music from there. And nothing else, like I say, nothing else mattered at that point. For about 10 years, I was just, I want to do music. I want to write music like David Bowie. He's very cool. What can I listen to? What can I watch? What can I read? And that was how I became fascinated by music.
That's amazing. So I guess he was the main influence that made you pick up a guitar. Was it always the plan to kind of be in a band by yourself, or has that just kind of naturally happened?
That's naturally happened. I was in all sorts of bands growing up, and what happened was Teenage Waitress was originally only supposed to be one album. So it was when I was about to turn 30, I'd always wanted to make a solo album, and I'd always wanted to make an album that reflected my love of David Bowie. And I don't think that was ever present in any of my previous bands, really, because obviously he kind of genre hops all over the place. And my stuff was always very, very similar. I wrote, I don't know, every song was kind of the same in my old bands. But I didn't feel that my kind of style was eclectic enough to reflect how much I loved the music of David Bowie. And so I wanted to do a solo album that was all over the place. I wanted to do something that was kind of like a patchwork quilt of different ideas and styles and genres to pay tribute to David Bowie, because he was the reason that I was, writing music in the first place. So that's how Teenage Waitress started. And it was going to be just one album, like a bucket list thing. But of course, I released it and I just wanted to get straight back on the merry-go-round again and do it all over again.
Now, I know a bit about Bowie, but I'm not that kind of knowledgeable. Is Teenage Waitress the name an homage, or where did the name come from?
Well, so that's another story. The name Teenage Waitress, I wanted basically all the songs on the first album, what was going to be the only album, were little stories from other people's perspectives, not from my perspective, other people's stories. And I wanted some sort of connective tissue to tie these all in together. And so the idea I had was the album, the listener is an eavesdropping teenage waitress, and she's hearing about all these people's days, and that's the song. So it's little nuggets of people's days as she's picking up plates or putting down plates. And obviously, of course, because you're eavesdropping, you might not even get the whole story, but you'll get a little bit of something. And so you can play with the amount of information that you give in a story. And it wasn't something I wanted to make a big deal out of when kind of promoting the album, but that was why Teenage Waitress came along, because I wanted some sort of wraparound for the whole song that kind of tied it as like a concept almost for all the songs to live together, because the genres were all over the place. So I wanted something thematically, lyrically to kind of tie it together.
That's really cool. So you spoke about the first album, you mentioned it, that was called Love and Chemicals. That came out at the back end of 2020. How did lockdown affect that? Because I'm quite aware that lockdown was in March. Did that kind of make you take the next step, or was it always going to be then, but you had to obviously release it around lockdown?
Yeah, it was strange because I couldn't. It was kind of a good thing and a bad thing. So like lots of people were at home, so the streams were better than they probably would have been if people were out and about. But obviously I couldn't go and promote it, couldn't kind of go on the road. I remember the day it came out, I did a live stream on Facebook, and obviously that's all I could do. I really wanted to just kind of get in a van and play the songs up and down the country and try and introduce it to as many people as possible. But unfortunately, that couldn't be done. But yeah, thankfully, more people were kind of just sat around on their phones in the living room, so they could just click on Spotify and listen to a bit of it. So I think it worked well in that regard. But it definitely meant that I couldn't play live as much as I wanted to.
And one of the other things, I guess, that came out of lockdown was Tim Burgess listening parties. That was a major influence in me starting this podcast. And I know through you tweeting about it recently and trying to get your new album onto listening party, like you obviously done a listening party for the first album. I mean, how did that come about?
That was, I think I actually sent another tweet to Tim because it was coming up to the 1 year anniversary of Love and Chemicals. And so many amazing people kind of interacted with the tweet that I think it just probably kept popping up in Tim's notifications because it kept getting, responses and stuff. And then I just got an inbox from Tim, and it blew my mind. We went out to dinner and drinks that night to celebrate, because it was like, oh my god, this is huge. Because I took part in the other ones. I loved. There was some Bowie ones, and there was a Granddaddy one. I did quite a few, and I just thought it was the most amazing thing for anyone who loves the art form of the album, which is 100% my favorite art form ever. I'm obsessed with albums. I'm not a playlist person in the slightest. I don't think I've made one playlist. I might have made one to promote the first Teenage Waitress album, but yeah, I stick an album on front to back, and I don't skip tracks. I don't pick favorites. I'm an album person through and through. So that is, Tim's Twitter listening party is a celebration of that, and the people that are also like that. And also, what was really cool was there were albums that I thought I knew everything. I thought I'd read everything about, and all of a sudden, people that were involved with it were interacting. You could ask them questions, and they were sharing pictures that you never see. It's just the coolest thing ever. Like, yeah, and to be invited to be able to kind of showcase my album on that platform, it was huge. Like, I'm so grateful to Tim for letting me do that. It was huge, and like, yeah, it definitely helped with getting the music to new ears as well. Because as a solo artist, I can't afford to pay for promotion. I can't afford PR. I can't afford, and like it's a bit different if you're in a band. There's 3 or 4 of you, and you can split things. It's just me, so like I can't afford to do a lot of that stuff. So that is something that was completely free. Got the album into so many new sets of ears, and it was super helpful. So yeah, eternally grateful to Tim Burgess for his amazing listening parties and letting Teenage Waitress be part of it.
That's amazing. So the first album's currently available, like you said. You can listen to that on streaming platforms. It's a great album. That's Love and Chemicals. That's come out in 2020. But amazed to say, and really happy to say, that Your Cuckoo, the second album by Teenage Waitress, is here. It's available for everyone to listen to. So Daniel, I guess tell us about why you're doing a follow-up, because you obviously said the first album was meant to be only one. So I guess what inspired you to do the next one, and tell us about Your Cuckoo and the thinking behind that.
Sure. It's just addictive. Like, I just had such a great time doing it, and like making music is my favorite thing. And so I work with a label called Colorama Records, who kind of texted me the day Love and Chemicals came out and said, "So when's the next one?" And so I was like, "Okay, well, I've got to do it. I've got a label that are happy to release another one, so it's got to happen." And it was just I just couldn't wait to get cracking again. And I had a few ideas. Your Cuckoo is slightly different. So like Love and Chemicals, like I say, is all kind of other people's short stories. This one is similar. There's lots of short stories in this one again, but I've kind of peppered a few more personal references and things in there. So like there's a bit of a blur between reality and fiction this time. Like there's some songs that talk about records that I love. There's some songs that talk about there's a song that mentions a car that I had growing up, but it's still fiction as well. So it's kind of like a mix between fiction and reality, and it's kind of down to the listener to decide what they think is from my life and experiences and what is fiction.
And in terms of the approach, did you take a different approach to the second album? Did you record it differently? What were the main differences going in and recording this one to the first one?
Yeah, there's a few more people playing on this album. So yeah, we recorded half of the album in a day with a live band in a studio because I could only afford a day. There's only if there was 3 or 4 of us in Teenage Waitress, I could probably afford a bit more. But as it's a solo project, I can't expect other people to pay for it. And it was like, yeah, we've got a day. Can we do the whole album in a day? Probably not. Can we do half an album in a day? We'll try it. Because there's a part of my brain that loves the fact that the Beatles used to do that. They'd go in and cut a whole 30-minute record in a day. And I kind of wanted to live out that little fantasy. So yeah, half of that was recorded with a bunch of my musician friends, and the other half was done like Love and Chemicals on sort of like a laptop-y kind of album vibe.
So Your Cuckoo is out. You can listen to it. I know you've got quite a few live dates to kind of plug it. So let's go and plug the live dates around Your Cuckoo. So where can people go and see Teenage Waitress?
So yeah, we're doing a bunch of record store gigs to celebrate the album's release. We're playing Banquet Records in London on Thursday, June the 22nd, and we're doing that at 6 p.m. so that it is a bit of a rush from work to get there, but it's going to be a lot of fun. And then we're also playing Bristol. We're playing Longwell Records in Bristol on Saturday, the 8th of July at 1 p.m. So that's more of a lunchtime vibe there. And that's going to be a lot of fun.
Great stuff. If you're around the London area or the Bristol, get yourself down on those dates and go and see Teenage Waitress. It's going to be a great show. So Daniel, how can people find Teenage Waitress on social media? Where's the best platforms to follow you on and find you?
I reckon Twitter and Instagram probably are the two that I'm on the most. I downloaded TikTok the other day, tried to use it. I've never felt so old in my life. I have no idea what I'm doing. So I wouldn't recommend following me on TikTok unless you want to laugh at the old man who's outsmarted by technology. But but definitely, yeah, Instagram and Twitter are the places I reckon. And you can also obviously find me on all the digital streaming services like your Spotify's and your Apple Music's. Yeah.
Great stuff. So you've obviously mentioned David Bowie being the kind of key that I guess ignited your musical fandom. What music are you into? So I know Bowie covers a whole range of wild genres, but what genres of music would you say you're into?
Again, it's pretty wild. Like I kind of go in phases. I like music. I like melodic music. So like I love bands like Big Star and Teenage Fan Club, and I love bands like Pavement and Weezer. But then I love Joni Mitchell. I love the Beatles. I love Stevie Wonder, Pink Floyd. A lot of old music. I'm really into a band called Silver Twin at the moment. A new band called Silver Twin. I think they're fab. But yeah, all over the place, really. Kendrick Lamar, Bill Withers, Kate Bush, quite all over the place as well.
I love it. Anyone who likes Big Star and Weezer, fine by me. It's all good. So you obviously mentioned the Bowie Madame Tussauds experience. I'm guessing that might have been your first single then? Or your first record?
Yeah, so my first record was that Christmas, that following Christmas. My parents got me my first CD player. And it came, and they got me the Bowie album that had just come out that year, which was called Outside, which was very, very weird and very, very scary. So it's an album it's a concept album about a young girl who's murdered and her body parts are used to create art.
Wow.
And yeah, so that as a 5-year-old scared the life out of me. And the sleeve has pictures and graphics and stuff that is just something that should not be seen by any fight. I mean, my parents obviously didn't know. Yeah. They knew that I was into David Bowie and probably just thought it was just another Let's Dance. But it petrified. I mean, it lived in my dad's wardrobe for about 6 years because I listened to it once, looked through the booklet, it scared the life out of me, and I basically just ran crying into my parents' bedroom, threw it at them and said, I can't listen to this is horrible. And I think it just stayed hidden in my dad's wardrobe because I was too petrified of it. But they also got me Low and Ziggy Stardust as well with my first stereo, so far less creepy, and loved them straight off the bat, and they didn't need to be hidden away from me.
And what about your first record with your own pocket money? Was that a Bowie experience, or was that something else that you ended up buying?
Yeah, it would have been another Bowie. Like for about 10 years, that was kind of all like. Yeah, I don't know what it was actually, but it would have been a Bowie one. I think it might have been. I don't know. Actually, no, I don't know. Sorry.
So this podcast, Daniel, it's all about getting you to collect your fantasy festival. Are you a big fan of festivals? Have you been to any?
I've been to a few, but I haven't been to many because I kind of love my own bed too much, and I don't like feeling dirty as well. So I quite like going to festivals for the day and going back somewhere where I can have a wash and a good sleep. But I love the idea of a festival. I'm just too much of a clean freak.
That's fair enough. And in terms of gigs then, I always like to ask my guests if they've got a favourite gig, whether that's as an act, whether it's a gig that you've played at, or whether a gig that you've been watching. Do you have a favourite gig? Yeah,
so I think my favourite gig ever, I went to see the Magnetic Fields at Hammersmith Apollo last year, and it was just the most magical evening of my life, and it just felt really, really, really special. And there's been loads of gigs like that, but it was just one of those gigs where I came away and like I didn't take any footage of it. It all kind of lives in my head how it happened on the night. But it was very special. I got goosebumps. So, I mean, the other special thing about it is they'd been one of my favourite bands for a while, and I never got the opportunity to see them because they hadn't come to the UK, and obviously 2020 happened. And it was my first chance to hear these songs live, and it was just a really, really special evening. That's my favourite gig.
Oh, lovely. You can tell the way you've kind of explained your answer how much that gig means to you. So thanks for sharing that, because it sounds like it was a very special evening seeing them. And I'm kind of with you on that. I guess once I'm into the music, I have no desire to take my phone out. Luckily, when I go out to gigs, I'm normally with my good mate Andy, who loves taking videos and photos, so he will normally take photos and videos. But for me, I kind of feel a bit entwined in the moment, and I'm not so kind of going with my phone to try and get something. I like you said, seeing it through my own eyes and having the memories kind of in my head as opposed to on a screen.
Yeah, definitely. No, there's something really lovely about that. I agree.
Great stuff. So the aim of the Fantastival podcast, like I said at the beginning, is getting our guests to collate their fantasy festival. So Daniel gets to choose any 5 acts, one of whom must play a studio album in full. And he also gets to pick an encore, which can be any song that all 5 of his acts will perform together at the end of his Fantastival. So for any first-time listeners, it's really simple. 5 acts take 5 time slots. So in the last episode of the Fantastival podcast, I had Michael Forsyth on. He collated his The Colour of Sound Fantasy Festival as follows. So in his opening act slot, he had Sun Zoom, who are a great new act and highly recommended. Super Seconds, he picked Ocean Colour Scene, the first time they've ever been picked to play a fantasy festival. For his Midway Madness act, Michael picked Kelly Jones, and for him to play his Don't Let the Devil Take You Down album. Although that's live, I let him get away with that one, as it was a great choice. And again, the first time Kelly Jones has been picked as a solo artist, and he was followed by Michael's pre-headline act, Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds. So first time Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds have been chosen as well. And to top it all off, he picked The Verve in his headline act and had them all perform Let It Be for his encore. So very simple, 5 acts, 5 time slots. And before we talk about your acts, Daniel, we need to give your fantasy festival a name, and we need to give it a venue. So Daniel, what do you want to call your fantasy festival?
Okay, I mean, I'm very aware that I sound like a grumpy old man by saying this, but I'm going to call it Phoneless Festival for the same reasons I said earlier. So yeah, the elevator pitches, everybody has to leave their phones at the gate. I don't have a problem with people taking pictures and videos during gigs at all, but I want this whole thing to be one night only. So people have to go by how they remember it in their head. And it's kind of, you get this kind of like fever dream thing when you think back to it, because you can't just go into your library and look at photos and videos that you took.
I love it. So we've got the Phoneless Festival, and Daniel, we can hold it anywhere. So we can hold it in Banquet Records. You can take us to Bristol. We can go anywhere you want, north, south of England. We can go Europe. We can go America. Wherever you go, we will follow you. So we're going to hold your fantasy festival.
I've been giving this some serious thought as well. And as I say, I'm not really a festival person, as I like my own bed too much. So it was very tempting to just say my bedroom and make it very easy for me. But I figured that somewhere else that might be quite cool, and for a lazy person like me, not too much of a trek to get to, was wherever they shot Kate Bush's Wuthering Heights video. Let me have a look at if I can find where it was. I think it's Salisbury Plain. But obviously that place has some sort of magic in the air anyway, and a kind of music link. So I think, it looks really, really nice and green. And let me have a quick look on my phone. Where was it shot? Yeah, it was shot in Salisbury Plain.
All right.
So we'll do it there. And red dresses are optional, but if you want to wear one, great.
If you wear one, no one's ever going to know, right? Because there's no phone, so you can get away with doing it. It's just going to be rumour. Just add to the legend of the Phoneless Festival, right? Great stuff. So we've got our name, we've got our venue. So I guess before we talk about your 5 acts, Daniel, you've already mentioned loads of great acts, but we can only take 5 with us. Any acts who you want to give a mention to, who you love, but just aren't making it into your fantasy festival lineup?
Yeah. So pretty big one that didn't make it is the Beatles. And again, it goes back to what you were saying about being able to pick an album in full, and me being an album person. I'd love to see the Beatles play the White Album in full. That's huge for me, the album. So that would have been amazing. Stevie Wonder playing Songs in the Key of Life in full would have been amazing, and like a perfect kind of festival soundtrack. Joni Mitchell playing Blue would be huge as well. And Goblin playing the soundtrack to Suspiria would be quite high on my list as well. But unfortunately, they couldn't make the cut.
You can only have 5. So you've mentioned some great acts who aren't making it. Goblin will have to wait another day for their first fantasy festival appearance. The Beatles and Stevie Wonder have already joined us for a couple. Joni Mitchell has never been picked. She has. Joni Mitchell's been picked once by Sam Lambeth, who had her as his super second act. So 3 of those acts have been picked before.
Have Goblin been picked before?
No, Goblin never been picked before. Goblin will have to wait for another day. Maybe Phoneless Festival too. Maybe if the first one's a success, maybe we get them for the follow up. All right, so we've got Phoneless Festival, Salisbury Plain. It's 2:00. It's a lovely day. There's lots of red dresses out there. There's no phones. Quite a few been confiscated, but everyone's all happy. Great vibe. So Daniel, who's going to open your fantasy festival?
Well, I'm kind of going back to something else I said earlier, but the Magnetic Fields are going to open this festival because they're my all-time favourite band. And I love them because their music really encouraged and inspired me to think outside the box. The genres that I write my music in, like I say, they kind of influenced me to kind of stop writing the same song and the same lyrics over and over again, which I'm sure got very, very boring very quickly for anybody listening. They always kind of serve the song. The Magnetic Fields, I would love to open this festival.
Great stuff. So I know a bit about the Magnetic Fields through working in HMV. I know a few of their album covers in my head, but I'm not that familiar with their sound. So I guess if you could kind of describe how they sound, what would you describe Magnetic Fields like?
So they kind of genre hop as well, all over the place. So my favourite album of all time is 69 Love Songs, which is like I think it's their 6th album, and it's 69 songs about love songs, but in every kind of different genre you can imagine. The whole thing has this kind of like encyclopedia of pop music vibe going on. But what ties it together, like Teenage Waitress, is the idea, the lyrical idea that's tying them together. These are songs about love songs, and songs kind of poking fun at love songs, and taking apart all these types of songs and that we know and we hear every day, messing with them and putting them back together again, and kind of playing with tropes and things that we kind of hear day in, day out in love songs. It goes from sort of campfire songs to electro pop songs to reggae to cheerleading songs to kind of country ballads. There's basically every kind of genre you can imagine is covered on 69 Love Songs. And it's just, it was a real game changer album for me when I heard it.
I love it. I don't think I've ever heard that album, but I'm definitely going to go and listen to it after this podcast. Brilliant. It sounds brilliant. So maybe surprisingly, maybe not, this is the first time the Magnetic Fields have been chosen for a fantasy festival. So another new act on our roster. They're going to play from 2 till 3 o'clock. We'll take a half-hour break, and then we'll be back at 3:30 with our Super Seconds act. So Daniel, who's going to be your Super Seconds act?
So my Super Second act is Paul Weller, who I've seen many, many, many times and does not play a bad gig. Like, it's just not possible. He is just outstanding every time and puts everything into it every time, and has the most amazing songbook that soundtracked my life as well. Like, he was another big one for me. The Jam were such a huge band for me when I was kind of learning how to play guitar. They were a band that, I could kind of play along to, and kind of that taught me how to write songs. And then I kind of followed the rest of his career as well. Obviously, I came to it quite late in the day, but I was always so inspired by him, and always blew my mind how he was still writing work of such a high quality after doing it for so long and in so many different bands. And he still continues to do it. I don't know how he does it. Like, his last record was amazing, and the one before that was amazing. Like, I just think he's a real one of a kind musician, and anyone there at Phoneless Festival is going to have a fantastic time watching Paul Weller.
I'm glad you mentioned his songbook. He only gets an hour, and obviously his catalogue is huge from the Jam to current day. Any songs you would have to have him play as he walks on the stage, you slip him a list and go, Paul, mate, this is on your set list today, otherwise you ain't going on.
Well, I really loved his so he brought out an album during lockdown called On Sunset, and I think he was talking about playing that live in full, and it never got to happen because of 2020. But the title track from that, On Sunset, is stunning. So I'd like to hear that live. And I think he's because he's so serious about what he does and so passionate about what he does. He never kind of plays to the crowd. He plays what he wants to play. And I'd hate to take that away from him.
Right, okay.
I'd be very happy with him calling the shots. But if he was open to one request, I'd love to hear On Sunset from the On Sunset album live. I think that would be wonderful. In a field with a beer.
Brilliant. So as he walks past, you slip him a little post-it note, give him a little thumbs up as he walks past. All good. So maybe surprisingly, this is only the second time Paul Weller's been picked for a fantasy festival. So Second time as a solo act. The Jam have also been picked twice, so I guess he's fourth really.
Oh, okay.
So great to see the Modfather back in action at the Fantastival. He's your Super Seconds act. He plays from 3:30 till 4:30. We'll take another half-hour break, and it'll be time for our Midway Madness act. So 2 down, 3 to go. So Daniel, who's going to be your Midway Madness act?
My Midway Madness act is going to be Pink Floyd, who are going to play Dark Side of the Moon in its entirety.
Great shout.
I think by this point, everyone's had a few beers. The sun is shining, and we're all ready to hear an album that we all know and love inside out. And I love Pink Floyd, and I never got to see them live, but I've heard so many stories and read so many accounts of people that did, and the kind of theatrical shows that they put on. And I mean, I would be in my happy place witnessing that with, like I say, with a beer in the crowd as the sun's beaming down on us all, listening to Dark Side of the Moon, and just kind of, it sends me into a trance, that whole album. I don't come out from it at all. And it's like I say, being an album person, it's one of those ones I put on, and I don't think about anything else until the needle comes off the record and it's done. It really kind of sends me into a kind of state for the entirety, and I'd like to experience that live, because I've heard those songs so many times, but never live, and I think that would be a magic thing.
That's a great shout. Like you said, you're an album man, so it's always going to be an album of epic proportions, I think, for the album that took your album slot. So yeah. Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon, Pink Floyd's 8th appearance on the Fantastival podcast.
Is it?
Giving you their Midway Madness slot. Amazing to have them in the middle of your fantasy festival. So that's going to be awesome. That's going to be between 5 and 6. We'll take another half-hour break, and that'll take us to our pre-headline act slot. The pre-headline act is going to get an hour and a half. So who are you going to have play, Daniel?
Kate Bush is going to be next, and she is another all-time favourite songwriter of mine, and I want her there because I couldn't see her on her previous tour when Until the Dawn, I think it was called, about 10 years ago, when she played Hammersmith Apollo for a number of nights. I was there with phone, laptop, everything ready to try and get tickets. Couldn't get it. I tried so hard. I had friends that were doing the similar thing. I think it was just a real kind of luck of the draw thing. And my girlfriend got in, and it was one of the most magical nights of her life. I think it's her favorite gig she's ever been to. And again, it was the whole thing of no phones. You remember what you remember on the night. You're not going to get distracted by watching it through your screen. You're going to experience it as a crowd without any distraction. And I think that's so cool. And as gutted as I am that I didn't see it, I'm glad there's no DVD version of it, because that would take something away from the people that went there and the kind of memories that they had in their head. But basically what I'd like is another opportunity to see that show that I couldn't get tickets to. So yeah, if Kate Bush would play Phoneless Festival, I'd be a very happy man.
Yep, she's signed up. She's doing it. She's going to play from 6:30 till 8 o'clock. It's very sweet of you to mention how happy you are that the DVD hasn't come out, to the detriment of the people who were there. It's very considerate of you, may I say. Great stuff.
But the thing is, even for the people that weren't there, it's not going to be the same, is it, at all? It's kind of, you're going to be so separated from it. And I mean, it's I don't know. I think it's one of those things that you kind of, it's nice that you had to be there. There is no, there's no substitute. You had to be there. If you weren't there, it's too bad. You're not going to be able to get the Blu-ray.
So it's going to be an emotional night for Kate Bush, right? Because we're taking her back to Salisbury Plain. There's going to be loads of people in red dresses there. It's going to be slightly surreal for her, but she's going to put on an amazing show like she always does. First time Kate Bush has been picked for a fantasy festival lineup, so we welcome her back onto the Fantastival podcast. Yeah, she has been chosen once as a solo act with Damon Minchella, obviously from Motion Colour Scene, picked her as his headline act. And then Saffron from Republica was kind of cheating, and she had Kate Bush in a double header with Stevie Nicks that I didn't want to scare Saffron or upset her, so I let that one slide. So third time, but you're in great company there with Damon and Saffron, obviously.
Yeah, definitely.
So very cool stuff. Yeah, so Kate Bush, third time. She'll finish at 8 o'clock. We'll take one more half-hour break. Then there's one more act left to play, the Phoneless Festival. It's going to be a headline act who plays from 8:30 to 11. Now, I hadn't met you before this, but I'm pretty sure I know which way you're going with your headline act, unless I'm going to be Surprise. So, Daniel, who is headlining the Phoneless Festival?
Chaz and Dave. No, it would be David Bowie. Yeah, straight from my father's wardrobe to Phoneless Festival.
I guess you've obviously mentioned how much David Bowie means to you. I think that much is clear from a very early point in your life. But I take it you never saw him live, right? Because of the age difference.
Yeah, I was kind of too late to the party, unfortunately, and that's something that I always wish that I wish that I kind of, because I was probably. I mean, he did play some shows, but I was just a little bit too young. But I wish that I'd kind of known that would be the last chance. Yeah. And I didn't. And I kind of thought, like all of us, I thought he'd live forever. He's kind of supposed to live forever. So I thought, I'll go see him later. But then that was it. And he never played again. And then obviously we're very lucky to have some studio recordings. But that ship had sailed, unfortunately.
So obviously, I mean, David Bowie could play for days on end, right, until he gets through his catalogue. Is there a period of Bowie you'd want, or again, are you just going to David, right, you have 2.5 hours, you can play whatever you want, I'm going to sit here and just take it all in?
Exactly that, yeah. I kind of would hate to dictate what he should play. I'd kind of just like to, let him go wild for the slot and surprise me.
Brilliant stuff.
Because there is no bad song he could play. In my opinion, I would just like you said, I'd let it wash over me and take it all. It would all be fantastic.
Lovely. So David Bowie, his 16th time on the Fantastival Podcast. He is and remains the most chosen act as it stands on this podcast. He is still worshipped and adored. So he's your headliner. He's playing from 8:30 till 11 o'clock. Then at 11 o'clock, he's going to welcome back on stage Kate Bush, Pink Floyd, Paul Weller and the Magnetic Fields. That is a hell of a lineup you've got on your stage. They're all looking at you to say, Daniel, what are we playing, mate? So it's all on to you. So what are you going to have your Fantasy Festival lineup play to close your festival?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I've really struggled with this one. But I think I've decided on, there's a song by Chris Bell from Big Star called I Am the Cosmos. I don't know if you know that.
Oh, I know that. Yeah.
And it's just the most beautiful, jangly, melodic pop song. It's a very strange song to end the night on, but I love it so much and I'd love to hear it live. And I wanted to sneak Big Star in, but obviously there's no room for him. So it will have to be the encore. And I love that song. Yeah, I Am the Cosmos by Chris Bell. Beautiful, just amazing. And I think it's kind of a bittersweet song, but I think it would leave everybody on a high.
I love the fact you've snuck Big Star in there. So Big Star, probably best known for their theme from that 70s show, whether that's right or wrong. Great band, obviously influenced so many bands who we hear of these days. They've never been picked for a fantasy festival, but you've got them into your encore, which is fantastic. Been mentioned a couple of times as like missed acts, but no one's ever picked them as yet. But obviously they're getting into your lineup through your encore, which is fantastic. All right, so let's lock this in, Daniel, before you change your mind. So we've got the Phoneless Festival. It's taking place at Salisbury Plain. In your opening act, we've got the Magnetic Fields. Super Seconds, we've got Paul Weller. Midway Madness, we've got Pink Floyd, who are going to play their album Dark Side of the Moon. Pre-headline act, we've got Kate Bush. And your headliner is David Bowie. And for your encore, they're all going to play I Am the Cosmos. Sounds
fantastic. Where do I sign?
Where do you sign? All right, let's lock that one into the Fantastival Vaults. Great lineup there, great encore as well. So, Daniel, before we finish obviously the album's just come out. You've mentioned live dates. I mean, what are the rest of what does your journey entail, I guess, for 2023, or what are your hopes for 2023 and the future as Teenage Waitress?
Well, we accidentally wrote 2 albums with this new album, so we've kind of got another one pretty much in the bank, but I need to kind of finish off some stuff on that. I need to kind of fine tune a few songs and kind of it's probably about 2-3 weeks away of work from kind of being done. But I'd like to play live more. I'm doing lots of kind of stripped back record store gigs at the moment because, like I say, it's kind of easier for me to be able to just afford it if it's a stripped back thing rather than kind of take a whole band on the road and which I'd love to do, but I just don't have the finances to be able to do that. But I would love to play more shows as a full band, and that's something that I'd like to start doing a lot more once this album's out. Yeah, try and get some good supports and stuff so we can play to lots of new people and kind of just continue to get the music out there. Like, it's kind of more than anything now. It's just like, for me, when I'm in my old band, it was all about getting in the van and world domination and kind of, you know, getting to a point where we could do it for a living. Whereas, like, I don't know, I kind of had an epiphany in my mid-20s that, like, you know what, that's not the fun part of it. The fun part of it is creating and writing music and playing music to your friends. And if people want to hear it, if people want to come down, great. But, like, don't get too hung up about, you know, living the dream or kind of, you know, the world domination and doing it for a living, because you have to be very, very lucky to be able to do it for a living these days. So it's all about just enjoying the creative process for me at the moment, and if hopefully playing some gigs and kind of sharing the songs with new people.
Sounds fantastic. So if anyone, like I said, wants to find you on social media, let's shout out your social channels again. So if anyone wants to find Teenage Waitress, Daniel, what are the platforms? What are the how does someone find you? How does someone find your profile?
So you can find me on Instagram at Teenage Waitress, Twitter at Teenage Waitress, Facebook at Teenage Waitress, and if you want to listen to me on Spotify, Apple Music, Teenage Waitress.
Great stuff. So that is it, everyone. Thank you for listening to the 129th episode of the Fantastival Podcast. If you've enjoyed this one, please subscribe. You can give the Fantastival Podcast a review on iTunes. You can also rate the show on Spotify. You can also comment on the actual episode on Spotify as well. So if you're listening on either platform, please do so, because it really helps with the algorithms of the podcast. Teenage Waitress are on Twitter. So is the Fantastival Podcast. So if you don't follow us, make sure to do so. You can find us at Fantastival P. Like Daniel, we're also on TikTok, which isn't going too bad. I just don't understand the algorithms at all. I post a video and it does really well for like 2 hours and then it dies off. Not sure what the hell's going on with TikTok, but we're there. So if you are on TikTok and you want to give us a follow, you can do so at Fantastival Podcast. Or if you prefer to email the podcast, you can also do that at fantastivalpodcast@outlook.com. On this podcast, we don't play music, but I'll ask Daniel if he wants to make I know you said you don't make playlists. If you want to make a playlist, we'll make one based on your fantasy festival acts. We'll put that in the episode description. So if anyone wants to go and listen to any of the acts Daniel has mentioned, we'll have a nice little playlist at the bottom of your episode description. So Daniel, a massive thank you, mate, for being my 129th Fantastival Podcast guest.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. I've had so much fun just kind of thinking about it and working it out and chatting with you. It's been brilliant. Thank you.
Mate, pleasure to have you on. Good luck with the album. I'm looking forward to hearing it more, and I'm looking forward to seeing some videos of live gigs, or maybe even coming to your London one if I can make it work, banquet. So I hopefully look forward to meeting you in person really soon. So I'll be back next week with episode number 130. So please make sure to join me for that one. But until then, stay safe, my Fantastival friends. Please continue to spread the word, and that word is Fantastival. Thanks for listening.